everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. As you might be able to tell, I am filming in a new location. So just to explain a little bit what's going on, I moved into the house where I'm currently living back in December of 2021. And so I've been desperately trying to find like the perfect filming location in here. And so this is yet another location that I am trying out. I really wanted to try a location where I could sit in front of some bookshelves. But as you can hear, this room is very echoey, and I'm also trying to like experiment with the lighting. Like I feel like I look very, very bright right now, like blindingly bright. So I do apologize for that this is not a perfect setup. I guess I'm just gonna have to keep experimenting. I don't know, but let's get away from that. Today, I'm here to bring you guys my March TBR. February always flies on by. And so yeah, I can't believe I'm here filming about books I wanna read in March. So let's just go ahead and kind of jump into it. I do have a stack of books that I physically own, and then I will also get into some books that I have on my Kindle or that I'm going to check out via my library onto my Kindle. But first things first, we have The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. This is book 2 in her Bridgerton series. If you are not aware, season 2 of Bridgerton on Netflix is coming out March 25th. Yes. And so Jess from Peace Love Books, she's a really great bookish friend of mine. She is doing a live show with some other booktubers and myself. We are going to be celebrating the release of season 2 by rereading or reading The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is the book that season 2 is going to be based off of. So I have read this book before. I actually read the entire Bridgerton series. Well, most of the Bridgerton series. I did not read book 1. I'm not going to get into that, but I did read books 2 through 8 for a reading vlog actually back in 2021, yes. So I will link that reading vlog up in the cards above if you are interested. I just adjusted the lighting again, so hopefully I look better. Ugh, this is so frustrating. It's also hard for me to know how things look because I do have a viewfinder, but I take my glasses off when I film, so like my view is a little blurry. Anyways, let's get back to The Viscount Who Loved Me. So yeah, I'm excited to be rereading this. This was one of my personal favorite books of the series when I read it back in 2021. I adore Anthony and Kate. They are my personal favorite couple of the Bridgertons. So yeah, this is going to be fun. And I do have this stunning first edition with this beautiful, beautiful step back. So that's gonna be fun. Next up, I have The Lady Tempson Heir by Harper St. George. So this is a brand new historical romance release. I believe this came out on February 22nd. So I absolutely adored book 2 in this series, which is The Devil and the Heiress. That was quite the surprise for me because I had heard a lot of mixed reviews about book 1, so I have not read book 1. And I had heard like pretty positive reviews of book 2, but I did not expect to love it as much as I did. And this is a series that takes place during the Gilded Age in London, and I just adore historical romances that take place during that time period. And I'm really, really hyped for this third book because I've just been hearing amazing, amazing reviews about this one, even more positive than book 2. So yeah, I know that this is about, yes, Maxwell, who is the brother of the heroine from book 2 and the heroine from book 1 as well. So this series does involve a family, and yeah, I'm just excited. So next up we have some YA books as well as some books that I featured in the 25 books I want to read in 2022 video. I will link that up in the cards above. That's a video that I made back in December, I believe. And that was just a list of 25 books that I've had on my shelves for probably well over a year that I just need to read this year. But first, actually, is a book that I bought pretty recently, but it's a YA book that I've been hearing amazing things about, and that is Parachutes by Kelly Yang. So I heard about this book from Ashley from Bookish Realm. I will link her channel down in the description below. I adore Ashley's channel so much because I just love the way that she talks about YA and middle grade books. I don't follow that many booktubers that read a lot of YA and middle grades, so I just adore her content. And she's raved about this book quite a bit on her channel. And I do want to point out that despite what the cover looks like, because I do feel like the cover looks, obviously it's very light, it's pastel colors. From what I understand, this is a darker story. There is sexual assault involved, at least from what I can remember Ashley saying about this book. But the premise, I'm just gonna read a little bit of what it says on the back of the cover. It says, they're called parachutes. Teenagers dropped off to live in private homes and study in the United States while their wealthy parents remain in Asia. Claire Wang never thought she'd be one of them until her parents sent her from Shanghai to a stranger's house in California. She soon embraces her newfound freedom, especially when the hottest and most eligible parachute, Jay, asks her out. This story also involves Claire's like host sister. And like I said, I do think this is a darker story. I've heard amazing things about Kelly Yang as an author, especially her middle grade books, which I'm actually really interested in checking out because I haven't really read all that much middle grade, but it is a genre that I appreciate. So really looking forward to that. Next up, I have the books that I featured in the 25 books I want to read in 2022. So the first one I want to get to this month is Watch Us Rise. This is by Renee Watson and Ellen Hagen. This one, from what I recall, okay, so this is about Jasmine and Chelsea. They're best friends. They go to school in New York City. It says, Chelsea realizes the poetry club is more interested in the classics than poems that actually matter, and Jasmine has an experience that is more drama than theater, and so they realize that like the administration of their school just is not listening to them, and so I believe they maybe form their own club as a way for their voices to be heard. Next up, we have This Song Will Save Your Life by Layla Sales. So this is a book that I've had on my shelves for at least 2 years at this point, because this is one of Emma from Emma Books' favorite books of all time. I think I know that she has talked about this book so much on her channel. She's another booktuber that I think leans more towards YA literature. And from what I can recall of what Emma has said about this book, it has to do with our main character, Elise, who basically like she's having a really tough time in school and she finds music as a way of like comfort and expressing herself. So I'll read a little bit of the synopsis. It says, Elise Dembowski is not afraid of a little hard work. In fact, she embraces it. All her life, she's taken on big, all-encompassing projects. When she's 15, she embarks on the biggest and most important project of them all, becoming cool. Except she fails miserably and everything falls to pieces. Yeah, she stumbles into like this underground dance club and yeah, things go on from there. I can definitely relate to Elise in the whole like becoming cool thing. That was definitely something that I desperately tried to do in middle school. Oof. And so then by the time I got to high school, I like accepted my social status and whatever, but yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So really looking forward to that one. Then I have The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes by Alyssa R. Sloan. So this is a book that I got from Book of the Month, let's see, August of 2020. So yeah, I've had it for a while. This one is, yeah, Cassidy Holmes is not just a celebrity. She is Sassy Gloss, the fourth member of the hottest pop group America has ever seen. Hotter than Britney dancing with a snake, hotter than Christina getting dirty. Gloss was the pop act that everyone idolized. And so this is essentially about like the rise and fall of this pop group, how they broke apart in the year 2002. And it turns out that Cassidy, or Sassy Cassie, is now dead from suicide. And so it looks like we're dealing with the aftermath of all of that. I haven't heard too much about this book, and I haven't really looked up any reviews on Goodreads, but the premise just really sucked me in. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And then the last physical book that I have with me is Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. So this is book 3 in her Brutal Birthright series, which is a mafia romance series. So I read Brutal Prince back in November and I read Stolen Heir in February and I absolutely loved it. So now I need to read everything that Sophie Lark has written, and I also loved that book so much that I bought myself physical copies of most of her backlist. So that should tell you something. I'm really excited to get to this book. I know this one is about Nero and Camille, I think, is his love interest. Yeah, I go into a lot of books blind, so I don't know much more than that, but I'm really looking forward to this one. Okay, so then I have a bunch of books that I don't own physical copies of that I really want to get to in March. First up, we have Remain Nameless by Hey Jude 19. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have gone down a Harry Potter fan fiction rabbit hole, specifically a Dramini, so Draco and Hermione fan fiction rabbit hole. I'm currently reading one that I'm absolutely obsessed with, so I will be talking about that in my end of February wrap up. But this one is one of the ones that really stood out to me in terms of fan fictions that I wanted to read ASAP, because this is one where Hermione and Draco are adults, and it sounds like the plot centers around them meeting at like this Muggle coffee shop. They both work at the Ministry of Magic, and they just start meeting up for coffee and talking, and I don't know, it just sounds really awesome. So yes, I'm definitely not coming out of the Hermione fanfiction rabbit hole anytime soon. I already have, like, honestly, probably like 30 fanfics downloaded onto my Kindle at this point, so yeah. Next up, we have Love and War by Shira Lynn. I recently found the audiobook for this one off of my Libby app. So this one's a really interesting premise because we have our heroine who is a Black woman living in Nazi-occupied Paris, and then we have our hero. He's a surgeon and he's essentially forced to work for the Nazi regime. So I'm very interested to see what this one's about. I've heard Jen from the book Refuge rave about this one, and I trust her recommendations, so I'm really looking forward to this. Next one, we have Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Eva Lee. This is a very recent release of hers. This came out on February 22nd, and I've heard nothing but phenomenal things. Eva Lee is a historical romance author that is slowly becoming a new favorite of mine. I really enjoyed her Union of the Rakes series, which is her most recent series. And then this is book one in a new series by her. And yeah, this is just gonna be a fun rake meets wallflower premise, and I'm really looking forward to it. So then we have Ruthless Stranger by Maggie Cole. This is book one in a mafia romance series. This is on Kindle Unlimited. I feel like quite a few books I'm going to be talking about in this TBR video are on Kindle Unlimited because I always try my best to take advantage of that subscription service. But this one I've heard awesome things about because both main characters are older. I believe they're probably in their late 30s into their 40s. And this one I believe starts with like a one-night stand. I don't really know the premise of this one, but I've heard Jen from the book Refuge rave about it. Same with Brie from In Love and Words. Just a lot of my bookish friends love this book and this series, so I'm really looking forward to checking it out. And I have realized that I'm getting more and more into mafia romance. That is a subgenre that I started reading in 2021, but I was kind of skeptical of it, but now I'm getting more and more into it. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. Then we have Southern Charmer by Jessica Peterson. This is kind of a random book, but I remember buying the audiobook for this one because I saw in an interview, I believe that Charles from Books on Stereo did on his channel, where he interviewed Joe Arden, who is the male narrator for this book. And I remember Joe specifically bringing up this book in this series as something that he's really proud of and that he really enjoyed doing. And so I like immediately bought the audiobook for it. So I'm really excited to check it out. I'm assuming this is a contemporary small town romance series. Then we have Modern Girl's Guide to Kink by Gina Dreyer, I believe is how you would pronounce the author's name. This is a very random pick for me, but I've been going through my Kindle and I made a list of all of the books that have been on my Kindle for at least 2 years. And this is one of them. I remember this is one that I randomly came across on Twitter. People were recommending books with like a submissive hero and a dominant heroine. And they were talking about books where like the heroine is the one that is into kink, introducing the hero to it. And so this is one of the books that came up. So I remember buying it 2 years ago-ish, probably more than that. And so I need to read it finally. The premise sounds really great. Then we have Just a Heartbeat Away by Cara Bastone. So Cara Bastone is an author that I've heard so many people rave about in the romance community, but I've also listened to her 2 Audible original audiobooks. That was Call Me Maybe and Sweet Talk, and I really enjoyed both of those. Sweet Talk in particular is just an amazing romance audiobook. So I've heard fantastic things about this series. This is book 1 in a series, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think there's like 3 books in a novella. And yeah, I wanted to finally check out like her full novels. Next up, we have Something Fabulous by Alexis Hall. So first of all, I personally love this cover, which is funny because I'm like the first person to complain about historical romances with illustrated covers, but this one just like really works for me. And I've never read anything by Alexis Hall before, but the premise just sounded really fun. I believe it's about a duke, and then he is betrothed to this woman, but he ends up falling in love with her twin brother. And it's also like a travel, like forced proximity romance. It just sounds really, really fun. I feel like the premise and the vibe reminds me a bit of like a Cat Sebastian historical romance. So I'm really looking forward to it. And what's cool about this one is that it's on Kindle Unlimited, and when you check out the ebook from Kindle Unlimited, you get the audiobook to listen to for free, which is fun. Then we have Unhinged by Onley James. This is a series, it's also on Kindle Unlimited, that I've heard so many of my bookish friends rave about. It centers around these men that are like vigilante serial killers. Like they only kill men that have done terrible things, and they're all MM romances, which is something a little bit different. I don't think I've ever read like a psychopath romance that was MM now that I'm thinking about it, but that just sounds really cool and really interesting. Like I said, I've heard so many people rave about this series recently. Next we have Nerdgasm by Kimberly Reese. I think this is a romance between like a TA, like a teaching assistant, and then the heroine like is in college. But this is a novella that I specifically heard Ava from Ava Reads Romance rave and rave about. And so it sounds like it's gonna be a really like sweet and swoony romance. So I'm looking forward to this one. We just have a couple books left. Next is Drive Me Wild by Melanie Harlow. This is book one, I believe, of the Bellamy Creek series. It's a small town contemporary romance series. I specifically wanted to read this because Madison from Princess of Paperback raved about this one and compared it to It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and that like it has the same kind of vibe of like the heroine being a fish out of water. She's kind of a party girl, and that sounds fantastic to me because It Happened One Summer was one of my favorite contemporaries that I read in 2021. So really, really excited about this one. And then last but certainly not least, we have Spinster and the Rake by Eva Devon. This is kind of a random book for me, but I have heard Tori and Jess give this one pretty positive reviews. It is a marriage of convenience, and our hero has autism, though that's not explicitly stated because they didn't have that terminology back in like the Regency era. But that just sounds really interesting to me. I'm always on the lookout for more like neurodivergent romance novels. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. So that is going to be it for my March TBR. I have become more of a mood reader in recent months, so I can't guarantee that all of these books will be read in March, because knowing me, I'll throw out my TBR for like a random book or something. But yeah, hopefully I will read most of these books in March. So with all that being said, I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, or if you want to tell me about books that you really want to read in March. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!